in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Virginia SBDC's webinar series, Google and Beyond, Marketing and Managing on the Web. This series is designed to take a look at tools and techniques to help small businesses take their business to the next level. Today's webinar is Taking and Sharing Notes on the Web. All of our Google and Beyond webinars are presented by Ray Sidney Smith, web and mobile strategist, author of Solo Mo Success, Social Media, Local and Web Small Business Marketing Strategy Explained, and president of W3 Consulting, a digital business strategy and training firm. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type those questions into the question window, and Ray will do his best to answer them. Without further ado, here's Ray Sidney Smith.
Thank you, Tracy, and thank you to the Virginia SBDC Network for having me here on the Beyond Google Marketing and Managing on the Web series. As Tracy said, today we're going to be talking about taking and sharing notes on the web, and it's a far more sort of deep topic than I think we typically talk about here, but I think it's really important for us to talk about personal knowledge-based management and what tools are available to small business so that they can take advantage of this kind of knowledge management so that they have a more effective business. So a couple of housekeeping items. One, I'm here to answer questions. So by all means, if you have questions, please do ask those in the question panel, and I'll be happy to try and answer those here live on the webinar. And this will, of course, be archived. And if you have questions after the webinar, I will have my email address on screen, so you can email me directly if you have questions. But if you want to get a quick answer, feel free to go ahead and ask those questions at W3 Consulting on Twitter. I'll be more than happy to answer those. If you hashtag it beyond Google, I'll know what the context is much more quickly. Of course, follow at Virginia SBDC, and that will allow you to learn about new and upcoming events and other events that the SBDC has to offer to you, small businesses throughout the Commonwealth. So please do follow them as well. So with that out of the way, let's talk about our agenda today. Today, I want to cover really what is personal knowledge-based management, and I don't want to go into it too deeply, but I do want to cover some really important aspects of it and why I'm using this model as opposed to what would be considered traditionally knowledge management, KM versus PKM, and sort of why I'm using this model for small business as opposed to more traditional enterprise models. So I'll talk about that, what it is and why. I'd like to go over two of the major note-taking apps that are really currently not battling out. They're not really, in a lot of ways, they're two different animals, and I use them both. So you'll see the two applications. One is Google Keep, and the other one is Evernote, which I'm a huge fan of. And so I will talk about both of those, and then of course we'll do question and answer. Okay, so that's what we're going to do over the next hour, and so buckle up and let's get started. So what is personal knowledge-based management, right? Personal knowledge-based management is all about this idea that your business runs on knowledge today. Most businesses are, even if you're doing some kind of manual labor, whether it's information services, professional services, if you're doing knowledge work or not, your business has knowledge. And what that means is that you have information or data, your staff or you interact with that data, your clients' data, your data, whatever it is, and new knowledge is created from interacting in your business. And you really need to know this information. And so the systems, processes, people, and so forth within your business really need to be tracking this personal and business wisdom so that when you have transfer of staff, you terminate someone or someone moves laterally within the company or moves to a different company, they get hired out, whatever it might be, you need to have this information in your business so that it has continuity and the ability to grow. Okay, that's really the primary reason. Things happen. You get sick. Something happens to one of the core staff members, and somebody else needs to take over. Well, how does that happen? And through personal knowledge-based management, you can really do that. So, personal knowledge-based management is a term that I'm not quite sure was created necessarily, but is defined by a Latvian professor out of Riga Technical University, Jānis Grinspenkis. And so Professor Grinspenkis gives sort of this more in-depth definition. I'll give you that, and then I'll give you what I typically say. So he says that this is a collection of processes that a person uses to gather, classify, store, search, retrieve, and share knowledge in his or her daily activities. Okay, that's a mouthful. So I like to blend this all down to just sort of three verbs, right? Simply, it's just capturing, clarifying, and coordinating knowledge. And this, again, is for greater personal and professional growth, primarily in small business, whether you're a solopreneur, you have a team of 10, team of 50, or a team of 100, personal knowledge management seems like the better model than traditional enterprise knowledge management, which requires so many more tools and so much more, process and all those kinds of things. Okay, so in enterprise knowledge management, what you end up having is communities of practice, COPs, which are these groups of members that are experts, expert practitioners in a particular field that get together and have these kinds of things. And not that your business can't have that, but it's just a lot of administration for what could really be simplified efficiently and effectively into this model of personal knowledge management. Okay, so that's why I really use this model. It's just simpler. It's easier for us to be able to manage as a small business, and it allows you to do those three things. Capturing, which means collecting the knowledge on top of the data, right? So I want to be able to collect the document. I want to be able to collect that email. I want to be able to collect that information from that website, scrape it, and then apply information on top of that. And that might be me taking notes on top of a PDF. It may mean me screen capturing a website that I thought was really interesting and then adding notes to that and sharing that with people. And so we're capable of doing all of those things to really be able to get the knowledge out of people's heads and into a communal space so that we're all able to move and grow faster and more efficiently and more stably. Because if you don't have a stable place for that hub, then many times information's lost. So you can think about this in so many different ways. You can think about this in a husband and wife situation. You can think about this in a community organization where you might be on a board. You might think about this in terms of your business. You might think about this in terms of you interacting on any number of levels. What you need to be able to do is to get that knowledge in a place where everybody can really understand and grow together. Okay, so I don't want to belabor the subject. I just want us all to sort of understand this general idea well. So I've covered why personal knowledge management over traditional enterprise knowledge management, and just going over again so we understand it's less bureaucracy, more collaboration, and of course most often than not small businesses don't need all of the rigmarole of KM more than they just need a PKM or PKDM solution. Okay, so let's talk about developing your PKM now, which is how do you get started in this if you don't have an overarching perspective. And I just want to go over this very, very briefly. It doesn't really need much in-depth, and that's not really the portion of this, the reason for this, but I do want to go over this very, very lightly. So let's talk about developing your PKM. So you decide that this behooves your business to be able to have the ability to transfer knowledge, to collect knowledge, to be able to share knowledge, and all of those kinds of things, right? And to be able to access it at later times, coordinate that among your people. Well, the first thing you really need to do is get everyone together, get everybody on the same page. And you'll have heard me talk about this in prior webinars in the archives, because it's really important for you to bring all the partners to the table. That might include vendors. That might include some of your key clients. That might include all of your staff, some of your staff. It might require you to bring in a spouse or family members, especially if they're intimately aware of the business and intimately aware of your workflows. So those are things that you might want to bring in. You might want to bring in, like I said, vendors. Vendors might include business advisors if you have an advisory board. If you have people that are like your business attorney, your accountant, bookkeeper, your virtual assistants, whoever is and by extension is a part of your business, they've got knowledge and you should be capturing it. You should be clarifying what that knowledge is, right? What is it and how is it useful to us? And then coordinating among everyone so that they're able to share that information appropriately and timely. Okay? So it's really important to get everybody together. Next, discuss what each person's knowledge is. You get them to the table. Well, what do you have to offer? Okay, and sometimes people will then say, I've been in many of these meetings where people will then say, oh, you know what? You have this amazing ability to do X that may not be within your job description. It may not be within even a vendor client relationship description, but you have this knowledge and you share it freely, and so now this is a place where we might be able to capture that information. And then we can clarify what it is for everybody, because often if you're an expert in something, you start talking PKM versus KM versus communities of practice. They're all technical jargon. You really need to clarify that for the people so that there's a glossary. People know what the language means. You really have to explain this for people so that they can understand it in real world, seat of their pants, moving. Because you're typically dealing with this kind of knowledge when you're stepping in the shoes for someone or when you're in the heat of the moment. So you have to make these things really simple and useful when you're sharing that with stuff. If it's for yourself, that's not so big a deal. But when you're trying to share that information with other people, you really want to make that useful, practical, and organized. Next, you got to find where the data is. And then know where the knowledge naturally tends to collect and reside. I sort of think of this as silt in a river, right? It's just the natural buildup that happens. Don't try and force square pegs into round holes, right? You really need to just look at where the data naturally and the knowledge naturally flows and try to capture it and collect it along that stream. I find so many times you're ready to take notes, you're ready to grab all of the knowledge that's happening in your business, and you really want to be able to extend your mind in that way, your ability to remember things and bring it back to you, but you just try to capture it in the wrong place where you're not going to see it again, or with a tool where you're infrequently going to have it. I have one particular client who invested in this very fancy tablet. The tablet is never with her. So, all of that investment in building a system and organizing it and so on and so forth, it ended up being going back to the table and figuring out, well, you always have your mobile phone. You always have this application. In this case, it happens to be Evernote. And so, bingo, you capture it and clarify it and then coordinate within the app that you're most likely to always have with you. And that doesn't always mean that's not always the case. You might come back to the office after you're done from meetings with a client and you're capable of sitting at your desk or with that tablet and collecting and capturing and clarifying and then coordinating with people from there. But for the most part, you want to make sure that you're capable of doing this almost from anywhere. So it's really important to just notice where things naturally happen, and that tends to be where you want to collect those things and then appropriate them to the PKM tool of choice. Finally, you'll build the tools around the people and the knowledge, right? So where are the people, where are the knowledge? Where is the knowledge? You want to figure out where your people are and their competencies. So many times, some folks are not so tech savvy. So they may take lots of copious notes by paper, and that's perfectly fine, but we need to now get those notes that are in paper into the PKM system, into the tool that you're going to use. Finally, the knowledge. What kind of knowledge is it? Is it knowledge that's best captured by someone going ahead and speaking into an audio recorder and recording it by audio? Is it better for the person to write it out, type it out, or map it out, draw it for somebody? Maybe it's an organizational chart that you're creating on a regular basis for people. Figure out where those things are and templatize. That's a new verb, templatize. You want to go ahead and templatize the capture process. So in this particular case, you might want to create a form. You might want to create a sort of a version of a template that people copy and then use over and over again, and sort of as question and answer. This could be as simple as an intake form for clients. This could be as simple or as complex as a workflow chart to show somebody how to take a project from inception to completion and debriefing. So you decide on the tools based on the knowledge available and the people having to do it, and you come out with an effective PKM tool. Okay. So, any questions about this so far? Any questions that you might have? I want to quickly shift gears to utilizing the tools that I want to talk about today. But I do want to give us time to answer any questions. I know this is a little bit of a heady topic, so I want to make sure that if there are any specific questions, you go ahead and ask those. I'm going to be shifting gears now to the demo versions of the application. So this is the time to go ahead and ask questions, and otherwise I'm going to go into the first of two tools.
Yeah, Ray, there aren't any questions, so go on ahead and move on.
Wonderful. Well, you can interrupt me as necessary. I'm happy to answer questions. All right. So the first tool that I wanted to talk about and sort of go in sort of some of the deeper dive pieces of is an application called Google Keep. Now, a lot of people think of this as a very simple application, but it's actually very, very complex, and it makes it very simple in the front end, which is really helpful. So as you can see, this is I created a new account so that you could just see an empty Google Keep account. You get to Keep by going to keep.google.com. And if you have Google Apps, you have to activate Google Keep within Google Drive. So I'm sorry, so I think Google Drive has Keep automatically activated, so you're fine. So you just go to keep.google.com and you be logged into your Google Apps for Work account, and here you are. So as you can see, the interface is very simple. There's a yellow bar and the normal Google Apps information across the top. You have your search functionality at the top here, so you can type in searches, and you can see here you can search across colors, you can search across task lists, audio files, images, reminders, and the people with whom you shared notes. Okay, so the basic document is a note. You can add notes if you have an Android phone. You can add notes via the Google Keep app, which is on Android, and through Google Now. So Google Now is the Siri equivalent or the Cortana equivalent on Windows to Android or to the Google ecosystem. So Google Now allows you to just tell Google Now to remember things for you. So you can just say, okay, Google, remind me to do X. And what it will do is, if you have it set up, it will go ahead and add the note with a reminder at the time and date that you specified to remind you here in Google Keep. Okay, so you can add them there. On the iOS platform, if you're using the iOS platform, there are a couple of applications that are actually free that allow you to be able to use Google Keep. I do not believe there's an official Google Keep application on iOS, at least the last time I checked. There wasn't. So you have to use one of these third-party applications, so you have to take the additional risk of using a third-party application. But I haven't seen any issues with at least the two that I use. And just for the sake of it, let me pull up the two that I use. The two that I use is one called GoKeep, G-O-K-E-E-P, and the other one's called TurboNote. And so both of them allow multi-account access, so I have multiple accounts within them. I think one of them requires you to pay for the app in order to be able to have that multi-account access or to take out advertising. So with that, you now have Google Keep. You're set up on there, and so let's just go over the interface. I want to just let you see what we're dealing with here. So let's start out with the toolbar here. At the first top left-hand corner, below the search bar and the Google Keep link that will take you back to the main page, you click on it, and it gives you a drop-down of a couple of really helpful items. One, you can click on notes, right? You can see all the notes in the system, and any ones that are reminders, that is, they have a date and time associated with that note, will be filtered into view for those purposes. You can see in the archive any notes that have been archived, and in this particular case, you can see that I have several archived notes. Those are just ones that I shared with myself from my primary account, and so those are there. You can see the trash. You can delete things from the notes into trash, and then they get purged on a regular basis by Google. You can see here that you can also label things, and this is really helpful in a PKM, because what you want to be able to do is to identify the context in which they live for you. So if something is personal or work-related, you can name it by the company. So here, instead of work, if I have several companies, I would, in this particular case, I could type in W3 Consulting, and now I could tag everything W3 Consulting, and I know that that is work, okay, and that's the company-related items. But I can subdivide that. I can decide on many other labels. These labels are created within the notes, so you just click on the tag section and start adding them, and then they appear in those sections, and you can go ahead and edit the labels here, but those are actually done there. All right, let's jump into the settings, and we're going to come back out, and do that. Before I do that, though, you can see that there's a help. So it's support.google.com/keep. And there is a ton of information within the Google support answers for Keep. It gives you a lot of information for that. The other is feedback. And Google is actively developing this project. Like I said, this lives technically within Drive, within Google Drive. Although you don't see it here, it's actually saved in your Google Drive account, and so is a part of Google Drive. I don't really know why they have it so independently viewable, but the reality is it's a part of Google Drive. The terms of service, if you like legalese, I would recommend that you read that, and before bedtime, it'll be a good way to fall asleep. But anyway, if you have feedback about the application, they are listening. So this is a really great time to be able to have an effect on the application and how it develops and grows. So feel free to go ahead and click the feedback button and give Google your 2 or 3 cents on what's going on there. Next up, let's go back to the settings. When you click on settings, you can see that there really is only one particular setting here within my Google Apps for Work account. So I've only given and allowed for sharing enabling. So I can share notes in this particular one, and that's pretty much all there is to it. So pretty quick and easy, right? So that's what settings is. Some installations will have more or less options, but for now, the Google Keep in this particular instance just has sharing enabled. All right, so that's on the left-hand sidebar. On the right-hand side, you can see that all notes saved is this little tiny set of words. Every time I open a new note or edit one, this little thing will start to attempt to save things as they go. So it just automatically saves. There's no save button. There's just sort of a close button, and it saves based on that, okay? The refresh button means that if for some reason you disconnect from the internet, reconnect to the internet, you can go ahead and refresh and see new notes that have been shared with you, or see updates that you've made on, say, a mobile device, and you want to go ahead and see that there on your desktop, okay? You have 2 different views. You have card view and list view. So you can see here, this is the card view, or what they call the grid view, or the list view. And I'm going to create a couple of notes so you can see the 2 of them. We're just going to go ahead and click on Add Note, and you can see there it automatically jumps to the body of the note when you go ahead and click on the notes. Okay, so when you click on a new note, it opens up the body of the note, and we can do a whole bunch of stuff here. Now, I tend to want to title my note first, so I just hit Shift-Tab, which took me back up to title, and I will give my note title A, right? Then I'm going to jump back down to the body of the note, and this is the body of the note. Now note that I can add an image from my desktop, I can screenshot things and throw them in there, and if I wanted to, I could also create a task list, all right? And I can start turning things into tasks. Note that every line becomes a new checkable item, and I can go ahead and sort these things. I'm going to uncheck this, and this is a second line of the note, and note that this is a list right now, so therefore it's the second task item. As I check things off, they drop down into the marked completed section, but I can also rotate these. I can just drag and drop them up and down so that I can go ahead and do that. Note that that said saved, it said saving and then saved, so it automatically does that, and I can just keep adding new lines. I can add a reminder here to these preset dates and times, or I can go ahead and pick a particular date and time, and I can pick a particular place. Now this is really important. If you have Google Keep activated here and Google Now activated on your mobile device, that means having the Google Search app on iOS and or on your Android having Google Now activated. What Google Now will do is remind you when you come into proximity of a location for a particular note. I'll say that again. If I come near something where a note has been tagged to pick a place, like a grocery shopping list, if I want to go buy something, I pick the nearest grocery store to my home, and when I walk by it, Google Now will say, hey Ray, you've just walked by this particular place, you probably want to go ahead and stop by. In a business context, what I like to do is I like to use this for CRM purposes. So I might add a note that whenever I'm near, a particular person's home, business location, I'm going to stop in and say hi. Okay, if it's a client or a potential client, just stopping in and seeing how things are going. So it gives me the opportunity to be able to connect with someone just based on coming into contact with them in terms of proximity. Really, really helpful, okay?
Ray, we have a couple of questions. Do you have
Sure, go for
to
it.
have access to the internet to have your notes in the app? For example, when I visit a client, sometimes I don't have internet access to my iPad, but would like to access a note file.
Right, so you would have to download that prior to going to your client. So you have to open the app and would have to have it in its temporary cache at the time in which you accessed it. Otherwise, it will not be accessible. So this is cloud-based, so really it's whatever's kept in the cache. Some of these applications, like GoKeep and TurboNote on iOS, will keep some of those in the system. The reminders will as long as Google now has updated and captured that data on your local Android, then it will give you the prompts or the proximity notifications, but it won't necessarily have access to all of the notes.
Okay.
So say if you did a search for something, you wouldn't be connected to the internet, so it wouldn't be able to search for that item in the data archives, but everything that was in temporary cache would be available to it. So that's sort of kind of depends on what you're looking for and what you've recently accessed.
And then the second question is, if they have an Apple iPad and iPhone, which app do you recommend to be able to enter notes on the iPad?
So same thing. I don't actually often use my iPad to use Google Keep, but I believe that TurboNote and GoKeep have iPad options. So if they don't, email me and I will pull up what I actually use on my iPad because it is a rarity. But just go ahead and message me. I'll be happy to let you know what I have on my iPad, which happens not to be in front of me right now. Okay. But I think that GoKeep and TurboNote have iPad versions, but if they don't, shoot me an email. Okay. All right. So I can pick a date and time, all of those fun things. All right. Now this is where this becomes really truly an option for PKM, and in the sense that now I can go ahead and share this information with someone else. So in this particular case, I can say, oh, you know what? I want to share this with Tracy. Okay, I can see Tracy there, and now when I click on save, she now has access to this particular document, and she's gotten an email notification, and I can say everything that I share, I want it to be read, so that I know that that's a shared item. Okay, so there you go. I've clicked on the palette, and I've created a color red, and now everything that is a color red is shown there. Now note that now that it's shared, there is an icon which would be Tracy's face if Tracy had her picture in there. And so that's going to tell me who it's actually shared with in this bar. So you can see if there's 4 or 5 people it's shared with. I can add somebody else within my company. And so I can say Dahlia, there goes Dahlia, and I'm going to click Dahlia, and now Dahlia's going to be in there. Now Dahlia has access to this particular one, okay? So I can go ahead and just keep selecting people within my organization. I can select people outside of my organization, and just keep adding them, and now you can see that those people have access to those notes. They've been notified that they have access to the notes, and that's all there is to it. You no longer want someone to have access. You just go ahead and click on the X buttons, save, and now they've all been removed. Very, very quick, simple, and easy to be able to do this, and it happens the same in the mobile app for the most part. Okay, like I said, you can add images. If you're using Google Now on the applications, then on the mobile devices, then you're capturing. You can capture audio, and you can also capture your images in there as well. So on the desktop application, you can see that there's no microphone because this particular computer doesn't have a microphone, and the desktop version doesn't do that. But you can capture audio notes in here as well. Okay, so that's Note A. I'm just going to create a Note B now, and again, like I said, when you open up a new note, it just basically opens into the body of the text. So this is the body of the second note, okay? And I'm not making this a list, but I'm going to jump up, and I'm just going to call this note title B. So this is the second note. I'm going to go click Done here. And now what I have is a second note, right? And I'm going to change this back to white because it's no longer shared. But you can hear is Note A and Note B. Note that they are in card style or the grid style currently. If there were images, they would show me little thumbnails of the images within the note. And I can click on the list view, and now they're in the list view. Okay? And so now I can see that I can move these around, right? So if I want note A above note B, I can go ahead and do that. And each of the notes now gives me a drop-down menu, and I can delete the note, I can add labels, I can make a copy, and I can copy this to Google Doc to create a Google document. Okay? With that, that is really the extent of Google Keep. Okay, so it's a very simple application. It provides for very, very quick and easy sharing of knowledge between people. So if you're really trying to take notes, you just need to quickly share them with people. This is it. This is the app for you. Okay, so check it out. Really, really great tool. Let's jump base now to my favorite app in general, which is Evernote. Okay, so let me give a little bit of explanation of what Evernote is, and then we'll go through things. So I probably skipped a couple slides. We'll jump over here, and then we'll go into Evernote. So Evernote is basically a place for almost everything, and I'll explain that momentarily. Evernote, at its core, is a note-taking application, but Evernote also has an app center, and Evernote actually has additional applications that it's actually created for use. Okay, so it's really important to take note of these things, and so let's just go over some of the applications of Evernote after we talk about Evernote, what it is, and that kind of thing. I tend to think of Evernote as the extended mind. This is a much more cognitive psychology concept, but it works here in business because if we think about knowledge, really knowledge itself is its own form of data, but it's a connecting of your information with other data or your data with other data, and so that ontology is created, right? Those connecting points. So what we really want to be able to do is get all of that stuff off of our mind, so that we can focus, we can be creative, we can be mindful right now in our business and on our business, right? And so we want to be able to get all that stuff out of. Evernote does that so well. Evernote is available for pretty much every platform and way, and where they don't have a tool, there are tools that have been created for it. So think, if you have Windows, Macintosh, or Linux, there is an official version of that from Evernote for Windows and Macintosh. On Linux, there is a version that's non-Evernote, but non-official, but there is a tool for that. So if you think about it across the mobile sphere, you have everything from Android, iOS, BlackBerry, Windows mobile phone. They have a version for all of those platforms. So in essence, you can have Evernote on every device, everywhere you are. And with the App Center, which used to be called the trunk, so Evernote's logo is an elephant. An elephant never forgets. And so Evernote had the trunk center, is now the App Center. And so if you forgive me if I say the trunk center, mistakenly, I really mean the App Center. But that's where all the integrations are available to you. So say, for instance, you need a document scanning tool. Well, look in the App Center, and you'll find not only physical hardware, like the ScanSnap X15, is it X500 or whatever it's called now, or the iX500. You'll find those types of products, Moleskine notebooks, and you'll find pens and styluses or styli for mobile devices. You'll find all kinds of services like what's the name of the service that scans all of your, you basically, is it Shoebox? Yeah, Shoeboxed. Shoeboxed, you take all of your papers, you throw them in an envelope, you send them off to Shoeboxed, and they go ahead and scan all the documents. Guess where they end up? Right in your Evernote as individual notes, and now they're all in there. Now, a couple of things about Evernote. Evernote actually takes everything you put into it and OCRs it to some extent. So some pieces are not, some pieces are, and this has changed over time, so forgive me for the confusion, but the reality is that OCR means that it looks at the image of what you've written, of what you've taken a picture of, or what might be in a PDF document or in a Word document, and it looks at the text and uses that as a part of its indexing, its search indexing. Okay? So in this particular case, you're capable of not only typing into Evernote, which I'll show you momentarily, but you're also capable of just taking a picture of something. You see a sign, on the street, and it's of interest to your business. You take a picture of that, save it as an Evernote, and bingo, it's now captured the text data that was in that image. And now when you do a search, it'll search and find that image based on the text that appears in it. Now you can apply written stuff on top of that and all the other kinds of things. And so I just want to cover a couple of things here, and they're actually in my notes here. So I'm jumping back to this little screen because I have a little cheat sheet. So Evernote has, you find Evernote by going to evernote.com. Evernote has 4 different versions. Evernote Basic, which again, I'm not even going to talk about because it's not worth it. You should really immediately upgrade to one of the paid platforms. So Evernote Plus, Premium, and Evernote Business. Evernote Plus is basically is sort of a completely new, they bifurcated Evernote Premium into 2 new stages. One is Evernote Plus, which does not give you, so Evernote Basic used to be you'd be able to upload a certain amount of data into it. You have certain features. You then go to Evernote Plus. They allow you to email into the program, and I'll show you that shortly as well. Evernote Premium basically gives you unlimited everything. Evernote Business is if you have a team and you need to be able to manage multiple people within it. So for most small businesses, you'd likely have several premium accounts for your staff. Once you get to that maybe 10 plus people and you want some more control over what's in Evernote, you then go up to Evernote Business and you're capable of being on the Evernote Business level. Note that if you have Evernote Business, your staff can still have private notes and still keep all of their stuff private if they want to. So they have the ability to have private stuff. It's just that within the Evernote Business, you have much more ability to go ahead and deal with the administrative privileges of people and that kind of thing. So you can add people, delete people, that kind of thing. The other applications that Evernote officially creates are as follows. One is called Scannable. Scannable is iOS only, and so what it is a scanning application. So think of just removing your scanner from your desk and just using your mobile phone or your tablet. And so you can actually scan directly into iOS. I don't use Scannable primarily. I started off with another application called DocuScan, really love it, and continue to use it. It does edge detection of the page. It scans in black and white and color and does a fantastic job, at least on my iOS device. On my Android phone, on the Google Nexus phone, that I use the Cam Scanner Plus. It's a great Android application in the Google Play Store. It does a fantastic job of scanning all of that stuff, and then I save it into Evernote. So I don't usually use the internal Evernote application, but you can. So Evernote has a camera, basically a camera button within Evernote, and you click on camera. It tells you, is this a business card? Is this a piece of paper? What is it? You select the right choice, and then it takes an image of that and goes from there. Okay, really, really cool stuff built into the system. Okay. Sketch allows you to be able to take an image from a desktop or mobile device and then write on it. You can actually take notes, edit live onto the application. Again, you need Evernote Premium to be able to do that. Then Evernote Web Clipper. Evernote Web Clipper is built into the browser, so it's either an extension, an add-on, or a plugin for all of the major browsers: Internet Explorer, Safari, Chrome, and Firefox, Mozilla Firefox. And you install Evernote Web Clipper, and then anything on the web, it knows how to dynamically capture that. So if you select text, for instance, you can go ahead and select the text, and it'll just highlight that text and pull that into the note. You can say the whole page. You can say, I want to only look at the body content, and we'll only select the body content and allow you to be able to increase or decrease how much of the body you actually save in the document. Really, really cool application and very much a cool tool. One additional function within the Evernote Web Clipper is that when you do a Google search, Evernote can actually show you context-based notes, so notes that are related to that search in your Evernote. So I do a search on Google, and it'll say, hey, these are notes in your Evernote that relate to the same search. So you might have something in your Evernote that you don't even need the search for. So you can click on the note, it opens it up, and you're good to go. Next up is an application called Penultimate, and it's a handwriting app. If you just want to handwrite notes, you can use Penultimate. It's on the iPad. and you just purchase the Penultimate app, and you write directly onto the iPad screen. It captures it in Evernote as its own note. Very, very cool application. A lot of people really like it. Finally, Evernote Food. If you have a catering business, I suppose this works for you, but in general, it's a recipe collection application, and that's available only on iOS and Android. Okay, so those are the panoply of applications that Evernote themselves creates, but there are dozens, if not more than dozens, of applications that have been built on top of Evernote. Okay, so let's go into the Evernote application, and we can sort of see what's going on in there. So when you go to evernote.com, you're going to create an account, and this is what you're going to see on screen. Top left-hand corner is the Evernote logo, takes you back to the main page of Evernote. This is what's called Evernote Web Data. The old version, you can actually go back to the old version, is a very different interface. Okay, but everyone who creates a new account today is automatically put into this beta version. They are slowly but surely upgrading to give it all of the functionalities that the old version had, but for the most part, this should have everything you need as well to get started. Okay, so when you open up Evernote, it automatically opens you up to a new note. This is a new note in front of you, and you can just again start typing right directly into the note. Okay, you can type into the body text here, and notice what it just did when I started typing into it. It automatically opened up and gave you this full screen version, and the full screen version is going to give you the ability to just type in this clean interface. Okay, let's walk around it just a little bit inside the note. I'm going a little bit backwards than I did with Google Keep, just for fun. So here you can see the notebook that it's in, and if I had other notebooks, this would give me a drop-down menu to be able to switch notebooks. So I'm opening it up in the first notebook, which Evernote created for me, and I can go ahead and do that. While I'm here, let me just explain to you some of the some of the hierarchy of Evernote for purposes of things. So here is tags. I can just add tags, and if I just type in tag 1, comma, tag 2, comma, you can see that I've now tagged the item here as tag 1 and tag 2. Again, this is my ability to categorize notes based on tags. Okay, so Evernote allows you only so many notes, only so many notes per notebook, only so many tags in the system, and so on and so forth. So we have to keep control of these things. So let me step back a moment and just talk about its hierarchy. I'm gonna get out of this full screen so you can see what we're doing here. And so you can see here, Evernote has a series of hierarchy. Notes are your primary element. That's where you capture information. Okay, so just what I did there, I titled note and started giving text, stuff here. I can add almost any kind of document, and I can just choose the file. Note in this particular account, which I just created today, I can attach up to 10 files, and I can save up to 25 megabytes of data within this particular file. Okay. Now, in this particular account, which is an Evernote Basic, do not use the Evernote Basic. You definitely want either a Plus or a Premium account to start out with, because you just don't want to mess with the basic stuff. Your business data is more important than that. So in here you can add files. You can see you have lots of different style options. I could spend an entire day talking about Evernote and all of its various options. So I'm trying to just give you a brief overview of this. So you have notes. Those are the primary element. Notes are like pages within a notebook. So then we have notebooks, right? And I can create new notebooks. So here I'm going to create a second notebook. We're just going to call it second notebook. And I'm going to create that notebook, right? Now I'm going to create a third notebook just for demonstrative purposes. And this is going to be our third notebook. And now I have 3 notebooks, right? So pages in a notebook. Those pages are now in a stack of notebooks, right? So think about these as 3 notebooks on a desk. And then say that I want to go ahead and just stack them. And I'm going to just take this notebook, and I'm going to drop it onto the second notebook, and see it gives me the option to create a stack. And I'm going to call this first stack. So what we have here now is the ability to have notebooks in a stack. And see, I can collapse this now into a stack, and they're all, first notebook, second notebook, third notebook, are all within that stack. It tells me how many notes are in there and all kinds of fun stuff. Okay, so that's the hierarchy. We have notes, notebooks, stacks. it's very skeuomorphic. It's very much about how you would think about it in a physical world. And then we have this new thing, which is the tags. Now, tags are flat organizations, right? So we're capable of, across notebooks and across stacks, tagging things so that we can organize things not necessarily according to the notebooks in which they're residing. Okay, so if you have a context like personal or work, you might tag everything personal or work if those aren't easily put into one notebook versus another. Okay, for example, you have a note that's related to many different things, and it can't go into every notebook, so you put it in a notebook, but you tag it according to those other things that you might want to search against. Okay, it's up to you how you organize. You can be very tag heavy or very notebook heavy. It's just up to you. Okay, so let's step back here to our note A, which is in first notebook, and you can see here once I jump into the note and start editing and so on and so forth, I can go ahead and click on the full expansion screen button, and I'm back to the full screen of that. And as I said before, we have the options of, just like within Google Keep, I can go ahead and create a bulleted list, and I can also create tasks, in addition to Google Keep, here we have a couple more options. I can create numbered and bulleted lists, and I can also create task items. Okay, so in this particular case, I can say item 1, say that's a task that I have to do, item 2, and item 3. Note that this becomes a task list for me. I'm actually now creating a task list, and I can check those buttons off just like within Google Keep, but unlike Google Keep, this does not automatically sort it to anywhere else. Okay, so this is just like, checking them off and unchecking them. I have a tendency to check them off, and then I actually highlight, and once you highlight, notice that this drop-down menu automatically appears, and you have more stylization options. I click on strike through, so I can see that the task is actually like off my list. It's just much more visual cue, and it's still searchable, all of that stuff. It doesn't do anything. It's just a formatting issue, right? But it just looks better for me as like officially done. So I like to have it. Crossed out there for me. Okay, so you have those options. Like I said, you can save attachments to it. You can actually, if you're in a non-full screen mode like this, you just have a document on your desktop. You can actually drag and drop a file directly from your desktop, and it'll just save it within this Evernote, even in the web version. Okay, so we're using the web version just for demonstrative purposes, but Evernote has a desktop application that you download and install. You log in through your new account, and you can just drag and drop items into Evernote as well. You can drag it onto a notebook. It creates a new note with that particular file attached to it, or you can drag it into a current note, and it will save it as an attachment to that note. Okay. And so it just acts as though even though the document's attached, it acts like that note is actually one sheet of paper. So it doesn't actually create separate notes for attachments and things. It's just one note. Okay, and so you have that. And we have a whole bunch of other options. You can create horizontal rules and all kinds of fun stuff. And so for this particular note, I can actually create a reminder and say, notify me at a particular date and time in a week about this note. And again, very similar to Google Keep, it will go ahead, if you have the Evernote application on your mobile phone, it'll go ahead and shoot you a reminder notification on your phone that says, hey, you have this particular thing that's coming up on this particular date and time. Okay? You can clear the reminder and so on and so forth. The info button gives you some really important information about your note. In this particular case, it tells me who the author is of this particular item. I can change that. I can set a URL to this particular file. So if you created a PKM for just bookmarks that you centralized for your company, you can create all of the bookmarks, set your URL here, and you're good to go. Use the Evernote Web Clipper; it'll automatically pull the URL of the pages pulling in here, and you're good to go there as well. Okay, I'll talk about sharing momentarily, and then otherwise you have a done system. But in the information notes, you can see the date that it's been created and updated. You can actually modify these within the desktop. You cannot modify these here on the web, but you can modify these on the desktop. You can change the author like I did. I just dropped down in here. If there's a different author for this, I can change it to someone else. And then it tells you who this note is shared with. Okay, so some basic information about it. There's a lot of stuff you can do with Evernote. I don't want to, again, I'm just trying to go over the brief stuff. So let's go into some of the sharing components of Evernote. So Evernote allows you to be able to share some items and then I want to go into the settings just very briefly so you can see the settings and some of the very important aspects of the settings, and then we'll close out with question and answer. Okay, very, very briefly. If I want to share this note, I just click on the share button, share menu, and I have a couple of options. There's a drop-down menu. I can send the note to one person. The person that's receiving this does not have to have Evernote. Again, no one needs an Evernote account unless they want to interact with that particular Evernote. Otherwise, they could just see it. It opens up a new web browser window or tab and shows them that particular note. Okay, they can't do anything with it, but they can read it. You can share it on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. You can email this to them. Again, when you do that, it just goes ahead and opens up the link in there. You can also create a shareable link. So now that I just clicked on that, it goes ahead and gives me the share window. I click copy. That link, which always has the shard, which is S-H-A-R-D, shared, what do you call it, subdirectory, it will be there and available to you. You can stop sharing on this note at any time, so you can make this URL live, share it with anybody you want. They'll be able to see it on the web. It's not indexed by Google, but it's there on the web for people to see. When you stop sharing on it, it's no longer visible. Okay, so that public link just became deactivated and it's no longer useful. If somebody clicks on it, they won't see it. If I click on share, I'm going to get the option to be able to connect Google. And if I'm using Google Apps with this particular account, then I want to connect my Google Apps for Work account. And what it will do now is all of my contacts within Google will then be available to me. So I just type in the person's name, they drop down, and I can share it with them. If the person is an Evernote user and you already know their username, you just type their username in, and it automatically shares that with their account. They have a couple of options here for you. They can edit, and you can invite them to edit the document, and they can, I'm sorry, you can you're inviting them to edit, but you're inviting them to Evernote to basically become an Evernote user. If you already know that they're an Evernote user, just click on Can Edit. If you don't want them to have editing ability, just click on Can View. You can type a message here and then hit Send. When you do that, you are actually creating a work chat. Now, work chat is a very new product for Evernote that they scaled out across the entire ecosystem. So it's on every level of Evernote Basic all the way up to Evernote Business. And that means that when I share that item, you'll see in here in work chat a new work chat about that note. Those chats are not a part of the notes. They are their own thing, their own thread, but associated with that note. Okay, so you won't see the notes, you won't see the chat thread inside the note. You'll just see the chat thread and a link to the note. So if you want to add things to the note, you have to open it and add it to it if you have rights to it. Okay, makes sense. You have lots of search functionality within Evernote, so you can search for things, and there's a whole set of criteria very similar to Google's advanced search operators to be able to find things. You can say in tag, in the note, not in the note, that kind of thing to be able to find things. You can also create shortcuts. So say I have a couple of notes where I'm always putting things in them, and so I created this note called inbox, and my inbox is just a note. So I'm continually grabbing things off the internet and putting them into the inbox. It's just a note, but then I process that inbox to empty so that I know that I'm consistently clarifying what's in, again, personal knowledge management. I'm processing, I'm capturing and collecting regularly, and then I'm clarifying what that is and then putting it where it needs to be, coordinating that data among the people in my company. So I always want to make sure that I'm looking at how to make that happen. So I have a saved note. It's up here at the top. It's called inbox. You can create whatever other ones. You have a quick reference. Say you have a set of security codes for your, like your maybe some passwords or whatever you might want to save in here. You could just create a shortcut, and then instead of having to scroll through all of your Evernote to find it, you have a quick way to be able to access it here. Okay. So those are really the basics of Evernote. Let me jump into the settings. Which, again, you access by clicking on the little icon here. Now, you can put an image here, so that's your headshot or profile, and that way you can see yourself there. And then you can go ahead and click on settings, and it'll take you over there. This is the market, which takes you to the App Center. And again, you can share feedback, and you can leave the beta and go back to the old program. Again, like I said, I just created this today for purposes of demonstration, but you can go ahead and click on Upgrade as soon as you have a chance, and that will give you an upgrade to either Plus, Premium, or Evernote Business. You decide based on your business what you need. Okay. So here goes the account. When you come to the account, you're going to be given the options of Basic, where you are, and then the upgrade to Plus, which is $2.99 a month, or Premium, which is $5.99 per month, or 45, I think it's $45 or $49 a year. Let me see, I'll click on it, and it'll tell you. So you can either pay $4.17 per month if it's billed annually, and then $8 per month if it's billed annually as well. So you get a little bit of a discount for doing the annual billing, but you can do the monthly as well. If you upgrade, note the plus for let's see, it's not really giving me a clear whether plus or premium gives you these things, but you can see here, unlimited uploads. You can present your notes, meaning that you can actually take a series of notes and make them a presentation. You can search inside of documents. You can annotate PDFs using Sketch, and you can scan and digitize business cards. So I have a client who scans all of the business cards into Evernote. It's connected with LinkedIn, synchronizes the data, and now that synchronizes that with their phone's contacts. Now they have an image of the business card, clickable contact information. They can add their own notes, and they basically have a CRM now built within Evernote. Very, very cool. Okay. Mine happens to synchronize with Google, and then Google synchronizes with my CRM. So I use a CRM outside of Evernote, but if I hadn't had that CRM already, I would definitely have used Evernote to be able to do that. Okay. This here, if you have a paid account, this really doesn't make much of a difference, but it tells you here if you have a free account how much you've used, and it resets in 29 days. For the first 5 years that I used Evernote, I had a free account because it gave me all of the functions that I needed to. Today, that's not the case because of this. If you scroll down a little bit, here it tells you the email address that this account is associated with, but you can actually add other accounts so that Evernote knows that those are accounts that are available to access Evernote from all of those email addresses. So you can add multiple email addresses. You can see that I created an account today, and that can be helpful. And this one is email notes into. So Evernote allows me to, just very, very briefly because we're running out of time, but Evernote allows you to be able to email notes. So you can share audio clips, you can share notes, screenshots, whatever you want by email. So even if you don't have the Evernote application on there, this particular email address, this very long email address that Evernote gives me, only again with a Plus, Premium, or Evernote Business account, I can email into it. Not only can I email into a note, but if you use the right style, the right terms, you can actually add things to specific notebooks. So I can send an email that says, like if I had a daily journal of my client interactions, I could type, the date, June 11th, 2015, at client journal. And at client journal is the name of the notebook. And then I write in the notes, maybe throw in a couple documents, hit send to this email address, and Evernote will automatically place that note into the client journal. Okay. If I wanted to, I could actually put a plus sign after the date. If there was already a note, then if I put in plus sign after the date and at client journal, Evernote will actually append whatever I sent in that email to the current note. Okay, so you can actually add to a current note and create new notes in specific notebooks just by this email address. So it's really powerful if you get to know the tool really well. Okay, so I'm going to reset this email address after this and deactivate this account. So don't go ahead and sending anything into my Evernote to this dummy account, but it's there. Okay, a couple personal settings, and then we're going to leave time for questions. Here you can go ahead and place your name. That way it addresses you. If you have a different display and recognition language than English, go ahead and set that. This one here is really important. This auto-filing here, what that does is that Evernote tries to guess at where things should go in your system. If you are doing any kind of usage of that email into function and you are trying to decide for yourself on where things go, that will not work if you have this checked. Okay, so if you want the control to be able to send things where you want to send them, go ahead and uncheck that. Okay, I know I see people having all that problems all the time. If you you can change all the email settings here, you can just read them and go figure that out. Okay, under profile, profile is just picture and so on and so forth. So go ahead into profile and fix that up for yourself. Under reminders, you can see that you can change your time zone and a daily digest of your reminders. So if you're using this as a reminder system, you can go ahead and do that. Jumping down, I'm not going to go over points. Under security, you can see how often you any particular items that need to be secured. It's making me type in the password, but time is running out. So access history, you can see who's accessed this and how long and all the other fun stuff. So you can see here the last IP address is here in the DC metro area, so capture that. Connected services, you can see all the connected services that are primarily optional, and then you can go ahead and do that billing info and order history. This is a little bit more expansive if you have Evernote Business. Okay, so that's generally the Evernote platform. Like I said, there's the App Center and all of that kind of stuff. And with our last couple of minutes, any questions? Stacy, if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer those. You can close out, and I can answer those afterward, whatever you'd like.
Okay, there aren't any questions right now, but if anybody has any, please feel free to type those in the question window. Thank you for participating today. Today's webinar was recorded and will be posted on the Virginia SBDC website under live webinars and recordings. Tomorrow you'll be receiving an email on the webinar, and there'll be an evaluation link in that email. Please help us to continue to improve our training by taking the time to complete that evaluation. I've also posted that right now in the chat window. If you want to, you can go ahead and fill that in. We will see you on June 25th for creating and managing online forms and surveys. And with that, we'll close out, Ray. We do not have any questions at this time. Thank you, as always, for a very informative webinar.
Thank you.